Italy is the country the whole world has already decided it loves. Photographs of it hang in kitchens thousands of miles from Rome, and its food, music, and gestures have been exported to every corner of the planet. But loving a country from a distance is not the same as living inside it. The reality of daily life here is more complicated than any postcard and far more interesting. It is a place where staggering beauty sits side by side with stubborn frustration, where the greatest masterpieces of human art stand within walking distance of a queue that has not moved in 40 minutes, and where the pace of life is slow not because everything is easy, but because everything is meant to be savored. This is not a story about one family, one village, or one lucky expat who found a vineyard in Tuscany. It is the story of an entire country, of the millions of people who wake each morning in apartments above Roman ruins, in farmhouses surrounded by olive groves, in industrial cities of the north and sun-scorched towns of the south. They share a nationality, a language, and a way of being. Yet their daily lives could not be more different depending on where they happen to live. What unites them is a rhythm. Italy moves to a beat set centuries ago. The rhythm of the morning espresso, the long lunch, the evening stroll, the Sunday table, the summer festival. It is a rhythm that has survived invasions, unification, 2 world wars, and the arrival of the internet, and it still shapes nearly every hour of an ordinary day. To understand living in Italy, you must first understand that this rhythm is not a tourist attraction. It is the operating system of the entire society. Over the chapters that follow, we will travel that rhythm from top to bottom, across the Alps, and down the spine of the Apennines, through kitchens and piazzas, into homes and workplaces, through the prosperity of the north and the hardship of the south. We will look honestly at the beauty and the bureaucracy, the warmth and the waiting, the reasons people pack their bags, and the deeper reasons they refuse to leave. If an honest, unfiltered look at real Italian life is what you came for, subscribe now so you never miss the next journey. The map of Italy looks like a boot kicking a stone into the sea, and that shape is the first and most important fact about the country. It is long, narrow, and mountainous, which means its regions are strung out over a distance greater than many nations, each with its own climate, its own terrain, and its own way of coping with the land. To live in the far north is to live in a different natural world than to live in the deep south, and Italians feel that difference every single day. The north begins with the Alps, a wall of granite and snow that rises between Italy and the rest of Europe. Towns like Courmayeur and Cortina d'Ampezzo sit in the shadow of these peaks, where winters mean deep snow and summers bring hikers to mountain trails that overlook glaciers. Just below the Alps lies the Po Valley, a broad, flat, impossibly fertile plain fed by the Po River. This is the engine room of the country, foggy in winter, humid in summer, and covered in the rice paddies, cornfields, and industrial cities that have made the north rich for centuries. Running down the center of the peninsula is the Apennine mountain range, the spine that gives Italy its dramatic vertical character. Because of these mountains, flat land is precious, and much of the country is built on hillsides, terraces, and ridges. In Tuscany, those hills are softened by vineyards and olive groves, rolling in waves of green and silver. Around towns like Siena and San Gimignano, In Umbria, the hills are wilder and greener still, earning the region its name as the Green Heart of Italy. Then there is the coast, and Italy has an astonishing amount of it. In Liguria, the Cinque Terre cling to cliffs above the sea, 5 villages of pastel houses so steep that walking is the only practical way to get around. In the south, Puglia stretches out into the heel of the boot, its coastline a long ribbon of pale stone and turquoise water. The Amalfi Coast tumbles from cliffs into the Tyrrhenian Sea, while the island of Sardinia offers some of the clearest water in the Mediterranean, ringed by a rugged interior where shepherds still work the hills. The far south is also volcano country, and this changes the way people think about the ground beneath them. Mount Etna looms over Catania in Sicily, smoking quietly and occasionally roaring, while Vesuvius watches over Naples and the buried city of Pompeii below it. These are not abstract threats from a geology textbook. They are neighbors, accepted into daily life the way other places accept the possibility of a storm. Climate completes the picture. Milan and Turin know fog, damp, and long grey winters. Rome enjoys a mild golden light that painters have chased for centuries. Naples and Palermo know heat so heavy in August that the streets empty at midday and life moves to the evening. And in the northeast, the Dolomites bring snow to ski resorts, while only a few hours south, the plains bake under the sun. Geography in Italy is not a backdrop. It is a daily force, deciding what people eat, how they build, when they work, and how they live. The Italian day has a shape of its own, and it does not follow the clock of Northern Europe. It begins early in the cities, with the clatter of shutters rising and the hiss of an espresso machine. Coffee is not a drink to be carried away in a paper cup. It is a 2-minute ritual performed standing at the bar, a small, strong jolt taken in the company of the same neighbors every morning. The barista knows every name, every order, and every story, and this tiny ceremony sets the tone for the hours that follow. Mornings in Milan are brisk and purposeful. The metro fills with commuters in tailored coats, and the city moves with the energy of finance, fashion, and design. In Rome, the pace is different, still busy but looser, with more time spent on the phone, more debate in the street, and a chaos that somehow resolves itself into a functioning city. In Naples, the day wakes to the sound of motorbikes weaving through lanes that were laid out before cars existed, and the volume of life rises like the temperature. Lunch is sacred. It is not a sandwich at a desk, but a pause in the day, a genuine stop. Offices and shops slow, restaurants fill, and even a modest lunch is eaten sitting down, with real food and ideally, real conversation. In the South, many places still observe the long afternoon break, closing through the hottest hours so people can go home, eat properly, and rest. This is not laziness, it is an ancient adaptation to a climate that punishes activity in the midday sun. The real heart of the Italian day, however, is the evening. As the heat softens, whole towns step outside for the passeggiata, a slow social walk along the main street or around the central piazza. From Verona to Bari, from Palermo to Parma, the scene repeats nightly. Families arm in arm, children running ahead, old men on benches, young couples showing off, and everyone greeting everyone. The passeggiata is part exercise, part fashion show, part neighborhood news bulletin, and it is one of the most important social institutions in the country. Evenings end late. Dinner rarely begins before 8, and in the summer, it can drift past 10, especially in the south. Restaurant terraces fill, wine is poured, and conversation stretches long into the warm night. This is the rhythm that visitors fall in love with, but it carries a shadow side too. The casual pace that feels romantic on holiday can feel slow and frustrating when you are the one waiting. Queues shuffle, offices close for hours, and simple tasks can consume an entire morning. The Italian day is beautiful, but it is not always efficient, and living with that trade-off is part of the deal. In Italy, home is not simply where you sleep. It is the anchor of identity, the place where a person belongs, and it is treated with a reverence that surprises outsiders. Many Italians live in spaces that have been occupied by their families for generations. Apartments in palazzi whose stones were laid before the Renaissance. Farmhouses whose walls have absorbed centuries of harvests, and homes that contain more memory than furniture. In the historic centers of Rome and Florence, families live in apartments that are part museum and part obstacle course. Ceilings soar, frescoes peer down from above, and the plumbing fights a constant battle against ancient stone. These homes are often small by the standards of Northern Europe, less space for privacy, more for togetherness. But what they lack in square meters, they make up for in character. Every room has a story, and every story is known. In the countryside, the picture changes. In Tuscany and Piedmont, stone farmhouses sit among vines and olive trees, restored slowly and expensively by families who see the land as an inheritance rather than an asset. In Puglia, the landscape is dotted with trulli, white, conical stone houses unique to towns like Alberobello, while in Matera, in the neighboring region of Basilicata, people have returned to live in the ancient cave dwellings carved into the ravine, once abandoned as a national embarrassment and now celebrated as a treasure. The most striking feature of Italian home life, though, is who lives there. It is common and unremarkable for grown children to remain with their parents well into their 20s and 30s. This is partly cultural. The family is the center of everything, but it is also economic. Housing in cities like Milan and Rome is expensive, salaries have stagnated for years, and secure work is hard to find. The result is a household that spans generations. Grandparents, parents, and adult children under one roof, sharing meals, space, and daily life in an arrangement that many other societies have long since abandoned. This closeness is Italy's real welfare system. When someone is ill, it is the family that nurses them. When someone loses a job, the family absorbs the blow. When children are born, grandmothers step in as a matter of course. The support is warm and immediate, but it is not without cost. Expectations are high, independence can be delayed, and breaking away from the family's plans. Moving far away, choosing an unusual career, marrying outside expectations, can feel like a quiet act of rebellion. The kitchen is the center of gravity in every Italian home. It is where decisions are made, where arguments are resolved, and where the day is digested over food. The table is a place of belonging, and the Sunday meal is its high ceremony. To live in Italy is to understand that a home is measured not by its size, but by the number of people who know they are welcome in it. Food in Italy is not a pastime. It is a language, a geography lesson, and a matter of regional identity, all served on a single plate. The country is not one cuisine, but 20, and every city and valley defends its own recipes with a ferocity that outsiders find baffling until they taste the difference. To eat your way across Italy is to read its history in ingredients and technique. Naples is the home of pizza, and it takes the matter seriously. The dough is blistered in wood-fired ovens at ferocious heat, producing a crust that is thin, chewy, and charred at the edges, and any suggestion that pizza is fast food is treated as an insult to civic pride. Milan, by contrast, answers with risotto, a dish of rice, saffron, and endless patient stirring that speaks to the city's colder climate and its love of slow, precise craft. In Bologna, pasta is rolled and filled by hand, tortellini shaped by fingers that have done it 1,000 times, earning the city its title as the country's table. Sicily is a world unto itself. Centuries of Arab, Greek, and Spanish influence live on in dishes that pair citrus and almonds with seafood, and in the island's famous street food, from arancini to cannoli. In Puglia, the food is simpler and rooted in the land: olive oil, vegetables, and bread, including the dense, golden loaves of Altamura. In the north, butter, meat, and cheese dominate, while the south leans on olive oil, tomatoes, and fish. Each region is certain it eats best, and each has a case. The rules of eating are as important as the food. Coffee is espresso, short and sharp, and ordering a cappuccino after a meal marks a person as a tourist immediately. Parmigiano Reggiano can only come from Parma and Reggio Emilia. Balsamic vinegar belongs to Modena. These names are protected by law, and Italians know their geography through their stomachs. Wine follows the same logic: Barolo from Piedmont, Chianti from Tuscany, each bottle tied to the exact soil that produced it. Culture, of course, extends far beyond the plate. Italy is the cradle of the Renaissance, and its cities are open-air galleries. The Uffizi in Florence holds some of the greatest paintings ever made. The Sistine Chapel in Rome draws pilgrims of art as much as faith. Venice is itself a floating masterpiece of canals and palaces. But culture here is also lived and local. It is the Palio horse race in Siena, the masked carnival of Venice, the opera at La Scala in Milan, and the saints' festivals that light up the summer nights of the south. Even the everyday is cultural. The aperitivo turns a single drink into a small banquet of snacks and conversation. The market, not the supermarket, is where many still buy their produce, and the vendor knows each customer by name. Food and culture are inseparable in Italy. The same devotion to tradition, craft, and doing things properly runs through the plate and the piazza alike. Italy has the third largest economy in the Eurozone, a fact that surprises people who think of the country only as a museum. The headline, however, conceals a nation of two speeds, and the gap between them shapes Italian life more than almost anything else. To work in Italy is to live inside a paradox: world-class skill and stubborn obstacles in the same working day. The north is the engine. Milan is the financial and fashion capital, a city of banks, design houses, and an energy that feels closer to Frankfurt than to Rome. Turin is a manufacturing center with a deep industrial history, home to automobile giants and the engineering culture that grew around them. Across Lombardy and Emilia-Romagna stretch the industrial districts that quietly run the world's machinery. Factories producing everything from luxury cars to the precision equipment used in factories on other continents. The Made in Italy label, in fashion, food, and design, remains one of the country's greatest exports. The South tells a harder story. Cities like Naples, Palermo, and Reggio Calabria struggle with unemployment far above the national average, and the burden falls hardest on the young. For decades, the most ambitious and educated Southerners have left. For Milan, for Germany, for Britain, draining the region of talent and leaving behind an older, smaller population. This emigration is one of the quiet tragedies of modern Italy, a slow bleed that has emptied villages and hollowed out entire provinces. The backbone of the economy, from north to south, is the small and medium family business. In the workshops of the Marsh, the ceramic studios of Vietri sul Mare, and the leather ateliers around Florence, firms run by 2 or 3 generations pass down skills that machines have not been able to replicate. This is the source of Italy's legendary quality, and it is also a source of rigidity. These businesses are slow to grow, slow to adopt new technology, and reluctant to change, which means the economy as a whole moves more cautiously than its competitors. Tourism is both a blessing and a burden. Rome, Florence, and Venice earn enormously from the visitors who arrive by the millions, and entire local economies depend on them. Yet Venice has watched its permanent population collapse as the city fills with day trippers and rents climb beyond reach, and residents of Florence speak of a city centre increasingly given over to souvenir shops rather than neighbours. Work in Italy, for many, is a negotiation between honouring a glorious past and surviving a difficult present, brilliant craft, real pride, and a system that too often gets in its own way. Social life in Italy is lived in public, and that is the first thing any visitor notices and the last thing any Italian would think to explain. The piazza is the town's living room, a paved, fountain-scented stage where the elderly sit and talk, where children learn to ride bicycles, where teenagers gather as evening falls, and where the entire community performs its daily existence for everyone else to see. In Rome, the neighborhood of Trastevere hums until late with diners and strollers. In Siena, the great shell-shaped campo fills with people who simply sit on the bricks as they have for centuries. In Lecce, in the heart of Puglia, the Baroque squares glow golden at dusk and fill with families. The scene is always the same and always different. People outside, together, because being among others is the entire point. The passeggiata is the daily ritual, but the calendar holds grander ceremonies. Festivals mark saints' days, harvests, and historic events with a devotion that blurs the line between faith and celebration. The Palio of Siena turns a bareback horse race into a contest of neighborhood loyalty so fierce it borders on obsession, with entire districts praying, scheming, and celebrating for weeks. The Carnival of Venice dresses the city in masks and silk for 2 weeks each winter, a glittering echo of its old republic. Across the south, processions carry statues of patron saints through candlelit streets, while fireworks split the sky and the sacred and the joyous become one. Sport runs just as deep. Football is closer to religion than to a game, and the rivalries between the clubs of Milan, Turin, and Rome can divide friends for 90 minutes and reunite them over dinner the same night. A goal is a civic event, and a derby is a matter of identity. In bars and living rooms across the country, the weekend is organized around the match, and the result sets the emotional weather for days. Aperitivo is the softer, daily version of this sociability. As the workday ends, bars fill with people nursing a spritz or a glass of wine beside small plates of snacks, and the boundary between colleague and friend dissolves. It is a ritual of decompression, a bridge between work and evening, and it is as central to modern Italian life as the espresso that starts the morning. Tradition here is not nostalgia, it is continuity, recipes, gestures, and festivals passed down not as relics but as living practice, renewed each year by the people who keep them. The shadow side is that tradition can also be a wall. Communities are close and expectations are firm, and the young sometimes find themselves caught between the world that raised them and the wider world pulling them away. For all its beauty, Italy tests the people who live in it, and honesty demands that this be said plainly. The postcard version of the country is real, but so is the frustration, and the two exist in the same street, often in the same afternoon. To live in Italy is to love a place that regularly makes life harder than it needs to be. The bureaucracy is the most famous of these trials, and its reputation is earned. A simple permit, a tax matter, or a change of address can take months and a folder of paperwork, and navigating it requires a patience that no holiday ever teaches. Public administration moves at its own unhurried pace, and citizens feel it in every queue, every waiting room, and every stamped form that must be retrieved from another office across town. For Italians, this is a daily tax on time and energy. For newcomers, it is a rite of passage. The economy is the deeper wound. Wages have stagnated for years, while the cost of living in cities like Milan and Rome keeps climbing, and the result is a squeeze felt most sharply by the young. High youth unemployment, short-term contracts with no security, and a housing market that pushes people back into their childhood bedrooms create a generation that is educated, connected, and too often unable to build an independent life where it was born. Many leave. Those who stay learn to do more with less. Demographics weigh on the country like a slow tide. Italy is one of the oldest nations in Europe, with a birth rate among the lowest on the continent and a rising number of elderly citizens. Pensions and healthcare strain under the load, and the countryside tells the story in miniature. Entire villages in the interior of Calabria and Basilicata are quietly emptying, their young gone and their old remaining. The houses of the departed standing shuttered in the afternoon sun. Infrastructure and services are uneven. High-speed trains glide between the great cities with impressive efficiency, yet rural areas can feel cut off, and the gap between the connected and the forgotten is wide. Earthquakes strike the Apennines with tragic regularity, and recovery is slow. In parts of the south, organized crime still casts a shadow over the economy, and trust in institutions runs low. None of this cancels the beauty of Italy, but living here means facing these realities directly without the filter of a postcard and loving the country anyway. Italy stands with one foot in the past and one in the future, and the tension between the two defines its present. The modern country is visible and confident. In Milan, skyscrapers rise over the Porta Nuova district, fashion houses set the global agenda, and high-speed trains link Milan to Rome in about 3 hours. In Turin and Bologna, universities and startups push into technology, robotics, and design, proving that innovation can still grow from the oldest of soils. Yet tradition holds its ground with remarkable strength. Small-town Italy still runs on the rhythms of the market, the family meal, and the local festival. Glassblowers on the island of Murano in Venice still work furnaces their forebears would recognize. Fishermen in the Cinque Terre still haul nets as their grandparents did. Bakers in Altamura still shape bread by hand, and cheesemakers in the hills of Parma still age wheels of Parmigiano in cool stone rooms. These are not museum pieces or tourist performances. They are working lives, and many Italians would not trade them for a faster world. The two realities coexist, sometimes uneasily. Digital life has arrived in full. Smartphones are everywhere, and remote work has drawn new residents into the countryside. And the smaller cities, yet cash still circulates. Shops still close for lunch, and the personal relationship still counts for more than the transaction. A bank account can be opened online, but a loan, a job, and a favor are still far more likely to be secured over a coffee, through a cousin, by word of mouth. The young live this tension most acutely. They scroll the world while sitting in the piazza their grandparents built. They inherit a culture of craft, slowness, and belonging, and they are asked to compete in a global economy that rewards speed and change. They can order anything from anywhere in minutes, yet the most important things in their lives still arrive slowly, through family, through place, through time. The question facing Italy is whether it can hold both selves, the tradition that defines it, and the modernity it needs to survive. Some cities have found a balance, mixing ancient centers with living industry. Some regions have not, and the strain shows in their emptying towns. What is certain is that this is not a battle between old and new, but an attempt at coexistence, and its outcome will decide what kind of country Italy becomes in the decades ahead. So why stay? The question follows naturally from everything that has come before. The economy can be unforgiving, the bureaucracy exhausting, the opportunities elsewhere brighter, and the future uncertain. And yet millions of Italians choose to remain, and millions more who left spend their lives planning to return. The reasons are rarely rational in the way a spreadsheet understands, but they are the most honest reasons there are. They stay for the table, for the Sunday lunch that begins at noon and dissolves slowly into the late afternoon, 3 generations around one cloth-covered table, the pasta debated as passionately as politics, and the laughter carrying out the open window into the street. They stay for the piazza at dusk, when the whole town steps outside, and no one is ever truly alone. When the heat of the day breaks, and the light turns gold, and the world feels, for an hour, exactly as it should. They stay for beauty that is not a destination, but a daily fact. The morning mist over the Tuscan hills, the sea at Positano stacked in impossible blue, the first snow on the Dolomites, the lemon trees heavy with fruit behind a Sicilian wall. This beauty is not something Italians visit. It is the ordinary background of their lives, absorbed without comment and missed desperately when it is gone. They stay for belonging. In a world that can feel scattered and anonymous, Italy offers a place where a person is known. By the barista, by the neighbor, by the woman at the market who saves the best tomatoes. That familiarity can feel suffocating when one longs to escape it. And it is precisely what people ache for once they do. Anonymity, the immigrant discovers, is not freedom. It is often just loneliness in a larger city. They stay above all, because life here is lived close to the things that matter. Family, food, beauty, and time, not time in the efficient sense, but time in the human sense, spent rather than saved, shared rather than hoarded. Italy does not make life easy. It makes life feel real in a way that is increasingly hard to find anywhere else. And for those who have tasted that, no higher salary, no smoother system, and no sunnier forecast can quite compete. If this honest look at the real Italy moved you, subscribe now and join us for the next journey, because there is always more to explore.